Hello, everyone, and welcome to our online event tonight here at the University of California, Merced. My name is Ricky Hill. I am your e-recruiter here at UC Merced. It is always such an honor to be with you during these virtual webinars that we are offering. We do have quite the series for you, and tonight we have quite an event indeed. So as you see on your screen, we do have a presentation for you here, and the title of that tonight is a big one. It is SJV PRIME BS to MD Pathway Application Workshop. So as it sounds, we do have a workshop available for you that will include a presentation, a demonstration, as well as a live question and answer session at the end of our event. Before we do get started, let me go ahead and give you a couple of quick tips about Zoom. If you'd like to adjust your screen settings, you can click on View Options in the upper portion of your window. And lastly, and most importantly, as I mentioned, we do have some time at the end saved specifically for your question and answers tonight. Go ahead and click on that Q&A button, send in those questions. We will get to those behind the scenes as well as at the end during that live session. Once again, my name is Ricky Hill, your e-recruiter. A huge welcome to you tonight. At this time, let's go ahead and get things started, and I will hand things over to my friend and colleague, Noreen.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. In terms of starting off this presentation, if you attended or viewed the SJV Prime Plus overview, this will not be a repeat of that. This is specifically an application workshop and webinar, but I will cover the beginning slides just as a reminder of what this application is for. So right there, right now is the broad outline for the agenda, and we'll get started. So SJV Prime Plus, what is it? SJV Prime Plus is a workforce development program specifically to train future doctors for the San Joaquin Valley. It is an 8-year program for a 12-student cohort who are beginning as newly incoming undergrad freshmen, meaning the student has not been a freshman somewhere before, but could have been receiving dual credit community college or college credit enrollment as a high school student. Scholars who join this program or offer this program receive their medical degree from the UCSF School of Medicine, and after receiving their bachelor's from UC Merced and finishing their training, medical training at UCSF Fresno. And as a reminder, this is a mission-focused, region-focused, underserved area, underserved region initiative in order to improve health access and health providers for the area. So who are our partners? Reminder of who our partners are. This will help in terms of the application as I get to that further down in the presentation. We have 3 main campus partners: UCSF in San Francisco, UCSF Fresno, and UC Merced. The 2 existing pathways that exist right now in order to train future doctors for the San Joaquin Valley is SJV Prime or SJV Prime Plus. SJV Prime is the pathway at the top, describing a pathway where a student can go anywhere to get their bachelor's degree and can major in anything. And it is a traditional application process by applying to medical school once the bachelor's and BA is almost done. That already exists now. The newest pathway, which is what this application workshop is for, is the SJV Prime Plus pathway. The plus is representing high school students applying now, high school seniors, and that this pathway is specifically all within the Central Valley. No one leaves to move to San Francisco, and it is an 8-year cohort with direct admit to the UCSF School of Medicine. I want to make sure these distinctions are here so that if you're trying to figure out which pathway is best for you, if you've got your heart set on another UC, or if you're in terms of your own planning or trying to go to community college first, you should probably look into the pathway at the top, SJV Prime. But tonight's webinar is on the application for high school seniors looking at the SJV Prime Plus program. Another distinction to make, I've gotten this question regularly, is many students are interested in the health profession and the health field, but health is the broader category in terms of medicine, in terms of health. Medicine is a smaller category. And so this application in particular is about getting a medical degree. It's not an application for a program to get completing something in nursing, physical therapy, dentistry, chiropractic, etc. If you're interested in a medical degree, it could be any one of the specialties or on the left. And I'm going to leave that up for a second because there may be questions on that as well. Again, healthcare is the broader umbrella. Medicine is a smaller portion of healthcare, and this is a medical degree pathway program. Okay. Now, if you are looking at other areas in terms of medical or health professional schools, again, I'm only covering medical and the medical pathway for San Joaquin Valley. You'd have to look at other UCs. Again, I'm just referencing UCs. You would have to look at other UCs for schools of nursing, optometry, veterinary medicine, dentistry, etc. This is just a quick snapshot of the other UCs and the other medical and health professional schools that exist through the other schools of medicine. For UCSF in particular, our partnership is with UCSF School of Medicine, and in terms of it related to their campus partner, UCSF Fresno. As a reminder, the acronym PRIME is Program in Medical Education, is specifically related to the University of California. And I'll leave that up just again, so you can get a snapshot of how to distinguish where you're applying or where you want your career to go and which is the better place to apply. So again, University of California PRIME programs is focused on underserved regions and underserved populations of the state related to health access or healthcare providers. And that's what this application is for. What is the offer? What is the offer to the student who successfully completes the application and gets an offer? So in March, when we hand out our offers, a student will get a financial award for their undergrad years, priority registration in their degree coursework, as well as pre-med requirements, housing assignment on the living and learning community floor of other pre-meds. That is an invite-only floor. And no MCAT is required to get admitted. And a conditional acceptance. There's a spot already held for you at UCSF School of Medicine. It is called a conditional acceptance because a student has to successfully complete the bachelor's degree, and a student is assessed every year throughout the program to see if they're progressing academically and professionally towards becoming a doctor. And throughout the 8 years, there'll be community engagement, volunteering, research and clinical observations, as well as dedicated mentors throughout the 8 years. And to stay in the program and keep all of these benefits, a student has to maintain a 3.6 GPA during their undergrad. And again, be successfully complete all the assessments in preparation for medical school. This slide right here is giving you an overview. Everything in red is a traditional pathway to medical school. And we are just, our pathway is just looking at students earlier and sooner because of the health provider need in our area. So this application is, again, is for high school seniors who will be brand new incoming freshmen. And that 8-year commitment or that 8-year program is a traditional 4-year undergrad and 4 years of medical school. Everything else after that is once someone has already become a doctor with additional residencies and fellowships towards becoming a specialist. So this might look really typical. It is the timeline for a college timeline, fall of your senior year in terms of completing a college application. The UC application opened on August 1st. And now that we've hit October, we are accepting completed applications all this month and next month with a final deadline of November 30th. So the UC application is required. A completed application, UC application is required for the Prime Plus program, as well as a secondary application called the SJV Prime Plus Supplemental. This supplemental application is due in December. and specifically December 7th. We'll get more into details on that on slides coming up. And then the rest of the timeline, we expect to interview candidates in February, offers going out in March, and in April, traditionally, students go visit the campuses that they've been admitted to and must commit by May 1st to one UC. And to highlight here in the bottom left, I'll get into that further in a future slide, is this is a blind review process up until the interview. So again, there are two applications. You should consider the UC application highlighted there on the left as the college going application, getting into the UC. And you should consider the supplemental application highlighted there on the right as the medical school application. So there's two different applications and both are needed for this program. The UC application is due on November 30th. And again, the supplemental application is due on December 7th. You'll see some strikeouts and some corrections. That is meant to emphasize that there's old information that are probably out there and that we've changed some deadline dates as well as some questions, etc. So for this year, for the current class wanting to be admitted for cohort 2, the deadline is December 7th. And instead of 8 prompts, students must respond to all 6 prompts, similar to PIQs with 350 words or less. And then we've combined the letter of rec phase. It's no longer a separate phase, and it'll be part of the supplemental application, where you as the student would submit 2 names and email addresses of your preferred recommenders. To go into detail on the difference between the UC app and the supplemental application, you will notice on the left are topics. The topics of the prompts for the UC application, which are 8 prompts, and the student gets to pick any 4. The highlight of gray in the middle is to remind students this is the old process from last year, which had 8 prompts. And again, we've corrected that. The new prompts this year, it's reduced to 6, and we've changed some questions and changed some topics, like a question specifically on the San Joaquin Valley community, and then others that are really important to the School of Medicine: commitment to medicine, values and ethics, and diversity, equity, inclusion. What you should know, and the tip for improving your application between these two, is that the audience reading the supplemental application is not a general college audience. It is a medical health audience from all 3 campuses. They are medical physicians, public health researchers, they're faculty, etc. They're all experts in medical or health or public health. So ask yourselves, how would I respond to these prompts differently than I would compared to the sort of regular UC PIQs? This is very important in terms of the second application being screened and you wanting to move forward to the next step. One of the requirements for submitting your application and listing UC Merced as one of the campuses on your UC application is to choose a qualifying track or a qualifying major. What that means is anything in yellow is one of the majors that you should pick, because the ones in yellow have already been designated as curriculums that line up exactly to medical school without any additional time to a student's 4-year undergrad timeline. This is really important in order to complete the SJV Prime Plus program in 8 years. As we move forward and as more faculty are hired or as more programs grow, we anticipate additional majors in the future. For example, public health, the Bachelor of Science portion, is a new qualifying major this year that was not available last year. So now the School of Social Sciences, Humanities, and Arts does have a major that is part of the BS to MD program. So a qualifying major and track is anything in yellow. As you select the major, the technical side to this is that you must choose the option that says SJV Prime Plus, BS to MD. That's one. And the second is you must choose it as your primary major, not an alternate major. If you are an applicant that chose the major at the top, we will never get your application. We need students to make sure they are choosing the major or track that distinguishes SJV Prime Plus, BS to MD. That is the requirement if you want our committee to read your application. So in terms of a visual summary, the UC application is the broader campus-wide, system-wide application. You would have to choose UC Merced as one of your campuses because Prime Plus is at UC Merced. Choose a qualifying track and then submit your UC application incomplete before November 30th, and the system will be sending you an access link to upload your responses to the supplemental application before December 7th. Again, the reminder is you have to submit the UC application before you can even get the supplemental application link. The supplemental application link is not public, and we do not give the access link to anyone who has an incomplete UC app or does not have one started at all. So in terms of the entire process from now through March, there are 4 components that get reviewed in terms of the application. The UC application, the SJV Prime Plus supplemental, 2 letters of rec, and for those that make it to the interview, that interview and those notes and assessment of that interview get reviewed. These are 4 components with which a student can share about who they are. And the idea is that through each step or through each component, the reader and the committee are learning something new about you each time. In terms of the first 3 components, this is a blind review. It is a blind review in that we get rid of personal information up until invitations through email and phone call go out, and we're calling students to be invited to interview. More details about the blind review. Again, we get rid of any personally identifying information, such as name, ethnicity, age, gender, etc., so that we don't know who the person is, and we're just assessing the application based on content, accomplishments, and achievements. What this means is if there are certain characteristics or certain parameters about your identity that you want to highlight, they must be put in the PIQs or they must be put in the supplemental responses. A parameter itself is not a factor in influencing selection. For example, if I said, I'm the only female in the science Olympiad, the parameter of female or gender does not automatically give me more points or consider my application competitive just by gender. If this is important to you, then you must list how that parameter or identity parameter has shaped the way you view the world, the way you see the world, the way you think, the way you feel about being a doctor. You must share how these experiences or these identities, layers of identities you have, contributes to how you learn, and again, how you interact with others, and your pursuit of being a doctor and contributing to the societal need. Again, it is a blind review, and if there's something important about your upbringing and your background that you want to share, it needs to be in the PIQs or the supplemental. So the first component of the application, the entire process, is the UC application. I won't go into detail on this, but I'm going to leave this slide up for a few minutes, or at least up to a minute, so that you can see the webinar dates that UC Merced is actually having on each of the different components within the UC app. It is a long app for some people, and so we break it down into its parts, and there's separate webinars for each of the categories. Again, UC Merced admissions hosts these webinars throughout next month so that a student understands how to complete those sections if they're having trouble. But I've also listed an email address as well as a phone number for additional support when it's needed and you're trying to progress and complete the application. Again, this application is due November 30th. Continue to seek out help in different ways through webinars, email, or phone call. The SJV Prime Plus supplemental app, again, you should be considering this application as the medical school application. The readers for this application, again, are medical and health audiences from all three campuses, UCSF, UC Merced, and UCSF Fresno. You should respond to these just like the PIQs in terms of 350 words or less. And we're not looking for content. We're not looking for a summary or a listing of what is already on the UC app. We're not looking for you to reiterate, again, what can be found in the PIQs or in the list of coursework or in this section of awards. You're trying to contextualize that these accomplishments and experiences shape who you've become as a person and the person you're wanting to be in terms of a medical student and a future doctor for the Valley. For additional support, there's 2 email addresses there, as well as a phone number and webinars like this to assist. When this webinar is over, it will be recorded and posted on the website. I'll leave that up for a second. And again, the reminder is you should not be responding to these supplemental questions like the UC PIQs and only with 350 words, but that the audience is different. This is the medical and health audience. That's the greatest emphasis I can say about this part of the application. And ask yourself, if the supplemental question was asked of me by a doctor in person, how would I respond? That should be your starting point. Okay. And then there's no creative writing needed at all, poetry or literature or essay or trying to do storytelling and narrative. Again, just respond to the question and try to synthesize all of your accomplishments and contextualize why these are meaningful to you. The next component is the letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation are needed for completing the supplemental application. You do not submit that recommendation yourself. In the past, I've gotten PDFs attached to emails and saying, here's my letter. That is not done by you. The only part done by you is to submit names and emails of those you want us to contact and give them the access link. You must submit those names as part of the supplemental that is due on December 7th. What you could be doing right now is telling your recommenders now in October that the deadline for them to submit is December 14th and that they should be expecting an access link once you've completed the supplemental app. So based on these deadlines, a good tip is to complete the UC app early, which means you will get the supplemental access link earlier, and then you allow more time for your recommender to complete their portion. There has been some issues in the past where recommender has not submitted a recommendation or not been able to get a hold of the recommender, or there's been a bad email address and we can't send the link to them. So it would be wise to think of a 1 or 2 backups in case that happens, and just to communicate with us if you need to swap out for new names. And then the last part of this process is the interview. Anyone invited to an interview will be notified via email and phone, and they will be asked to schedule a 30-minute session via Zoom for a 3-person interview panel. This is done in Zoom because every campus is represented, UCSF, UC Merced, and UCSF Fresno, and it's difficult to get people in person. And then we complete this portion again via Zoom. We expect all interviews to happen in February in order to meet the March timeline of sending out UC offers and offers for Prime Plus. In this case, if somebody makes it to the interview, use that time wisely. It's 30 minutes. They're going to be very focused and directed with their questions So have clear responses, answer the question. Everyone understands that nervousness exists and they're okay with that, and just regroup and continue. The goal of this is that you're continuing to share about yourself. You're not trying to be casual and make friends with the panelists. Their goal is they want to find out more about you. And it's not necessarily the reverse where you're trying to find out more about them. That's not using the time wisely. Also, do not focus on retelling information that is already on the other pieces of the application. If it's already on the UC app, if it's already in the Prime Plus supplemental, if it's already in your letter of rec, then you can highlight it and reference it, but spend more time in getting the committee and interviewers to understand who you are and how they could picture you in a cohort of 12, how they can picture you as a medical student, and how they can picture you as a future doctor for Central Valley. No need to sort of make up for what you think are mistakes or gaps in your application. Just jump in and answer the questions that they're asking. So I'm going to switch it over now to my colleague, Ruben Lubers, who's actually going to do a demo of the application itself, specifically the Prime Plus supplemental.
Hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining. As Noreen said, my name is Ruben Lubers. I'm one of the associate directors for the Office of Undergraduate Admissions, and it's my pleasure to work on the Prime Plus application. And if you like this demo, then me and my team put on most of those November webinars that Noreen was talking about earlier, where we go over the actual undergraduate application section by section for you to work on as well. So, as Noreen mentioned, you do need to complete your regular undergraduate application for the University of California and select one of those Prime Plus options. Once that happens and we receive your application and load it into our system, you'll get an acknowledgement message from UC Merced saying we've received your application overall. Within 24 to 48 hours after that, if there's some holidays in there, maybe a little bit longer, but definitely within a few days, you'll receive an invitation to complete your Prime Plus supplemental application. So again, you should receive the UC Merced Got Your app, and then after that, you should get your supplemental apps ready to go. Within that time, you should have already gone and created your UC Merced account, so your username and your password. So when you click the link to start the application, you'll be sent straight to an authentication screen that you should be seeing now, I hope. So you'll put in your credentials, whatever those might be, and you'll be logged on and sent to sort of your Prime Plus application status screen. Here you can see exactly where you're at in your application submission and kind of see and await your decision as well. So you'll have a portal for your UC Merced application, which will tell you the status for your undergraduate decision. And you'll also have this Prime Plus status portal, which will tell you kind of the status of your Prime Plus application. So you'll need to keep track of both of those portals. They're not the same portal because this is two different processes. This application, again, especially if you've gotten your references in place and you've written your responses, should be fairly easy for you. You'll see some confirmation message here when your deadline is. Make sure we've gotten the right term for you, just in case it's pulling up anyone else. And you'll kind of see, again, your information to make sure it's all correct. Anything you see, you'll need to read and kind of agree to. So here's some introductory stuff. I won't keep this up too long because you'll have plenty of time to read it when you get the supplemental application, and you can click on all the links and read all this stuff. Once you hit the next page, we'll kind of go into that San Joaquin Valley deep ties questionnaire sort of stuff. So we'll just be asking if you have deep ties to the Valley, yes or no. If you do have deep ties to the Valley, after you read the definition of it, you can click yes, and you can select the different counties. Maybe you're like me and you grew up in one county, and then halfway through high school, you moved to a different county, and then your senior year, you moved quite a ways again. You can select the different counties that you have deep ties to, and then you can explain kind of how much time you feel you have ties to the Valley as well. So whatever you may choose, you can answer that. Once you answer that, you'll come to sort of your reference submission. So this is very important. We want to give your references as much time as possible to submit their letters of recommendation. So I would recommend getting your undergraduate app in as soon as you can. Make sure that's complete because you definitely want the undergraduate programs to review a complete application. But try and get that in. You can submit it now. October 1st was the first day. November 30th is the last day. But try and get that application as soon as possible so you can get access to this and submit your references as soon as you can. So we'll go ahead and put this in here. You have 3 relationship types that we ask you for: instructor, professional, and personal. Again, personal is not recommended, but if that's what you have as a reference, then you can definitely submit it. You need to provide 2 references, no more, no less. So you definitely, need to put that in there. We'll select professional for this one. And then these letters are blind. So we do ask that you acknowledge that you're not going to be able to see what your references are writing to you. So you won't be provided a copy by UC Merced, at least, of these things. And you'll hit submit. So now that step's done. You can stop here while you finish your written responses if you want. Maybe you have them written, you can continue forward. That's perfectly fine. But you want to come in and get those references submitted as early as you can so they have as much time as possible to submit them. Within an hour, your references should get the email to them saying that they've been asked to submit it. So you don't want to wait too long to get their permission because this is running 24/7. Again, within the hour that you give us their names, they will receive information about how to submit their letters. You can see here that the site has changed. You now, if you scroll down a little bit, you can see which references you submitted, and you can see if they've submitted that letter of recommendation or not. So we just gave the names, so of course they haven't completed those letters yet. If you come down and hit continue, you'll go on to the next step, which is simply providing your written responses. So again, if you have those typed out, you can just simply come in here and copy and paste. I don't have anything written out, so I'm going to do my favorite thing and just type gibberish. You do have 350 words. You can see when I'm in the box, it will tell you how many words you have remaining. And don't do what I do. You want to make sure this makes sense to us, but I'm just going to do it quickly. You can see here you have 6 questions to respond to. They're all on the Prime Plus main website at the moment, so you don't have to wait to get access to this to know what the questions are. You can go to the website. Maybe Ricky, can you post the Prime Plus website if you have it? If not, just Google UC Merced Prime Plus. It comes up. All these responses are there, and you hit submit. Thank you, Noreen. So now we can see that you've submitted your undergraduate application. You can't even get to this until you have that submitted. So that step's done. You've submitted your references. You've submitted your written responses. Now all you got to do is watch your contact your recommenders, come back here, check the status of them, make sure that these switch to complete. As soon as both letters are received, this will switch to complete, and you will see that your Prime Plus application is complete, and then you just have to wait for the review to happen. So I hope that supplemental application isn't too challenging. You have those few steps that you need to do, and hopefully by the time you get access, you have most of them completed. So Noreen, back to you.
So hopefully that demo was really helpful to everyone. I'm going to continue with how to improve your application, or what we are actually looking for in the application, now that you know how to submit your responses. So again, the reminder is you're not just trying to complete an application, right? Like complete an application in terms of filling the blank and submitting it. If you really want the committee readers to understand who you are as a person, understand who you're going to be as a medical student and a future doctor, this is where you should spend your time. Between now and deadline date, you should be asking yourself, why am I choosing to highlight this example, Science Olympiad, over extracurricular track and field? What we're trying to do is see what that would look like in terms of, again, a student being in this program, how they would be individually progressing through the 8 years, how they would be in terms of a team of 12. And we're not looking for the same person at all. We're not looking for this people who think the same or have the same experiences. Again, so context is important, not just a content and a list of your accomplishments. What we're really looking at is for students to go beyond just explaining what they did. And high school students do a really good job of sharing what they're doing now and sharing what they did in the past. If that's the case, you're pretty much in the left portion of this slide. Where that you should spend your time in terms of improving your application is the right side of this slide, where Yes, there are accomplishments that you've done. They're all going to be on the UC application. You'll probably get to highlight some of specific ones in your PIQs and the supplemental. But the added step to this is letting us know how you see yourself as a doctor. This is not a exploration program. It is not a college going program. This is a future doctor training program. So you should already be thinking of what it would be like to be a future doctor. If you're not sure yet, then perhaps Prime Plus is not the route to go. Perhaps going to community college or another undergrad or going to undergrad first, and then doing more exploring to decide if medicine is for you, because medical school is still an option down the road. We're not going to guess what kind of doctor you want to be, but we also don't hold you in terms of contracting and saying, hey, you said in your application you want to be a pediatrician. What we're looking for in your imagination and your visioning, right? We know people are going to change their mind during clinical rotations, etc. But you're giving us insight, again, to how you think, how you see the world, how you can imagine, and what you're trying to create. And then if our program can support you in that, and if there's mutual needs being met. So do more in your application to lean towards the right side of this, which is not just explaining what you've done and accomplished, but what all that means into the future you want to create. The other reminder is this is a medical program. You should already know if you want to diagnose those who are sick and injured. If you don't want to diagnose those who are sick and injured, maybe it's not medical school you want to go into, but you want to be in healthcare. If you don't want to problem solve through science or math or academics or research, any diseases or anything related to the science behind illnesses, then maybe medicine is not for you. So medical degree and becoming a practicing physician is about diagnosing patients. Patient care can be a part of it, but patient care is primarily done by others in the healthcare field. The doctor is the one that primarily diagnoses. So again, start learning what types of specialists there are in the medical field, and perhaps that's going to help you decide if you're applying to the right program. So some avoidable scenarios, check your junk and spam. I think we've got a lot of questions last year about, I don't see the link. And so if Prime Plus at ucmerced.edu is not a regular email for you, you should hit that as a safe email, or an at UC Merced admissions email is not a safe one. You need to check your junk and spam folder. A lot of messages have gone there, and some of the messages might have a deadline or a timeline. And so you might miss some of that. We've had students who didn't check their voicemail, didn't realize they were actually being invited interviews. So hunting students down for the next part of the process. Check your voicemail, or we couldn't leave a voicemail, to be honest. And so we're trying to find different ways to reach students. And then, of course, Ruben had already highlighted this. Don't wait till the last minute. It just puts everybody in crunch time. The system itself is in crunch time with a lot of applications. The sooner that you do this, but have completed a quality application, then you're allowing yourself more time, as well as your recommenders, etc. Get all the help you need before deadline date. We wanted to touch on academic integrity and plagiarism. The university and the UC system has rescinded offers if a student has plagiarized or there's any hint of plagiarism in their application. What I tell students is your story is not on ChatGPT, right? When you're trying to write your response and you're trying to share who you are, no need to go on ChatGPT to find your story. But again, we realize high school students are rushed. They want to complete as many applications as possible. They're trying to get into a ton of schools, so they have choices. We just want to warn you about overusing ChatGPT or using it as your primary tool to even create your responses. Spend some time on this in terms of not having it be the route you take to finish your applications. especially related to the Prime Plus application, and the medical and health audience is the one looking at it. We might catch pretty quickly that dropping in some medical terms in there, or trying to school us and give us knowledge on medical conditions or health policy, you're just not spending time on talking about you. So again, academic integrity and avoiding plagiarism. Another thing that's on the application, and it's on the UC application, is you have the ability to decide if you want your parent or your counselor to get updates or to be included in any updates or in terms of your application. We leave this up to the student. There's times when a student has withdrawn that, and a parent might call us and say, how's my student's app going? Or did their letters of recommendation recommenders turn their LORs in? And I can't update at all if you've listed this as you don't want anybody to know where you're at in the process. This is the same for offers. I've gotten counselors in April and May ask me, hey, I think one of our students got in, can you tell me? And I will look, and I can't say anything at all. So just wanted you to know that option is there for your own personal reasons of why you choose it or don't choose it. And then I just wanted to highlight in case down the road on scholarship nights or awards nights, people are wondering why we didn't recognize them or something like that. So parent and counselor release is all bound by FERPA, and you're deciding who gets the info. So seniors, what you can be doing right now, you can be working on the UC application, indicate UC Merced as a campus. Reminder is to pick a qualifying major for Prime Plus, and then drafting your responses, right? I think, Ricky, can you see if the supplemental application link is there with the 6 questions posted? It's already up there. You don't need to wait for a link. There are 6 questions on the website. You can already start working on those responses. Then, how do you get the link? We've been repeating this several times. We'll highlight it here. Anyone who submits a UC completed app with Prime Plus qualifying major will get the access link within 24 to 48 hours, unless it's over a holiday weekend. And then check your junk or spam folder. If you see, when you see that email, you will see the access link to turning in your questions for the supplemental, and then submit your final version. Some important deadlines: November 30th for the UC app and the UC PIQs, December 7th for the supplemental and the names of the letter of recommenders, December 14th for the actual letters of letters itself. And then just to highlight there on your radar, March 2nd, in case you're wanting to make sure you're part of being reviewed for FAFSA and financial aid packages. So in summary, you should start the application. You should attend as many webinars, appointments, or even campus tour. You should ask all of your questions before deadline date, and then submit all the components of the application that you can at this stage of the process. My email is here, primeplus@ucmerced.edu. I do have a Calendly link, which is a link to make one-on-one appointments. And I'll be up front right now. My calendar's full. Students will have to actually just look at that calendar continuously in case there's an opening and someone cancels. Somebody actually has canceled or they rescheduled. It's the only way right now that my October schedule will be freed up. But there is a option for one-on-one appointments. If I'm not available, or if I'm available, but you want additional help, admissions at ucmerced.edu is another option, as well as the phone number. There's a regional rep for your area that you can easily look that up in terms of our Speak with an Advisor section on the admissions pages. If you're interested in connecting with the diversity groups on campus or diversity advisors, we can connect you to them. And it's also completely possible to get connected to an advisor if you had some questions about being AB 540 or UNDOC, or asking those questions for others who might be afraid to. So again, this is the contact info and the supports that are available to you. And now this is our time to hand it over to you for questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Noreen. So much great information as always. And again, if you guys need to look back at some of those slides, you can drop us a question. We can always put something back up. And we are recording tonight as another quick reminder. So you will have access to this as an on-demand instant replay in just a couple of days. And we will have that available on the events page as a link that pops you over to the YouTube channel, Life at UC Merced. And earlier in the chat, you can scroll back up and I can also drop it again as a quick link to get you back over to the events page where you will find that replay link on this one in another day or so, on the event we had a few days ago, and anything else that's happened before or after today. We do try to record everything that you do have that at your fingertips later on so that you can watch that at your leisure and take your time and pause on those important screens. And again, we have also dropped some other information over into the chat box, so go ahead and take a look there. As we go through some of these questions, you can copy and paste and bookmark some of those important links. All right, having said all of that, let's go ahead and dive into the questions. We have quite a few coming in. All right, the first one. If I'm from Sacramento and I've demonstrated significant commitment and service in the medical field, am I still eligible to apply for SJV Prime Plus if I'm in Sacramento and not the San Joaquin Valley?
So those who are not in the San Joaquin Valley region, the reminder about application, there are two applications. There's a UC application and there's a Prime Plus application. Anybody can apply with the UC application, regardless of what region you're in. The most competitive applicants are the ones that have direct contact and direct experience, volunteerism, and ties to the Valley. So we have accepted applications, honestly, from abroad, from out of state, but they're primarily from California. And if you want to be considered, the areas with which you're going to have to explain those ties is in the supplemental in question 2. But it doesn't hurt to actually also include some of that in your PIQs to the UC app. We are looking for those that have direct experience in the areas that are needed the most, right? We didn't pick these areas. These areas stood out by themselves because of the lack of doctors and minimal healthcare access compared to other parts of the state. So UC application is open to everyone, and then use the supplemental to explain why you're competitive.
Very good. Next question. Will the admissions officers of the SJV Prime Plus program be aware of what we wrote in our UC PIQs and our UC extracurricular and activity list?
Yes. All components are available to the readers and the committee.
Perfect. And will the BS to MD program have college advisors similar to the normal undergraduate student programs?
Repeat the question. I think I understand what you're asking.
So they're just asking, will they have in the BS to MD program or pathway, will they also have college advisors the same as they would with other undergraduate students and programs?
Yep. Every undergraduate has their academic advisor because the undergraduate student is trying to complete a bachelor's degree. So based on your major and the degree program you want to finish, you will have your regular academic advisor regardless of being in Prime Plus. Now, being in Prime Plus, there's additional advisors and mentors for that cohort. I hope that's the question.
I think you nailed it.
Okay.
And if not, if someone has a follow-up, of course, they can drop another question in that Q&A section as well, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. Okay. All right, so the next one we have here. So if your application is not accepted to the Prime Plus program, are you still eligible to enroll at UC Merced, or do you have to reapply?
Again, the reminder is there's two applications. And in all honesty, the UC offer is probably going to go out first. So knowing whether you've got admitted to UC Merced will probably come out first. So yes, someone can register, complete the SIR, say they want to come to a UC Merced, and then register and become a student UC Merced without having gotten admitted to Prime Plus. And then I missed the second part of that question.
Or do they need to reapply? So are they still eligible for UC Merced, or do they need to reapply?
No, that your UC application will be in consideration one for UC Merced. There's no reapplication needed if you've already gotten an offer to UC Merced.
And like I said during my section, Noreen, you'll have two different portals. So you'll have like your Prime Plus portal, which will show you the status of your Prime Plus review, and you'll have your UC Merced undergraduate portal that will show you the status of that review. So you're submitting, think of it as you're submitting two different applications, right? One to just UC Merced, and we will review you for the major you selected on the application without the Prime Plus piece. And then the three campuses, so UCSF Fresno, and UC Merced, will review your Prime Plus application totally separately. And us in the undergraduate admissions office don't know the status of your Prime Plus pathway application, and the Prime Plus pathway doesn't know the status of your undergraduate app. So they really are two separate things.
Very good. And Ruben, I know that you're on here, and this question might be a repetitive thing to what you just said, but let me go ahead and officially ask the question and you can clarify. So will the SJV Prime Plus Admissions Committee read both my PIQs and the supplemental application, or will regular admissions officers read the PIQs separately?
Yeah, so in the undergraduate admissions office, we will just review your undergraduate app with your PIQs that you've submitted there. We're not reading your Prime Plus app, but the Prime Plus committee is reviewing both your undergraduate application you've submitted, everything, in addition to your supplemental app and your letters of recommendation and all of that. So the Prime Plus is a much more thorough review, as it has the two applications. The UC Merced undergraduate review only has the one undergraduate application.
So on that same kind of line of thinking, then should they repeat some of the things from their PIQ, or should they keep that separate and use all opportunities for new and unique information and not duplicate that on the supplemental?
Based on the slide that I'm sharing the reminder here as a quick graphic of all the components that are considered for trying to select and make an offer to students for Prime Plus. All four of these are considered. The UC application will be viewed, the supplemental, the letters of rec, and then the interview assessment. So every opportunity you have to show more about who you are as a person, as a future medical student, and as a future doctor, you should not miss that opportunity. If 2 or 3 of those components are repeating the same things, you're missing your chance for the committee to learn more about you. So I do not recommend repeating things. You can highlight experiences again if there's another way you want to share about that experience. So if a hardship is showing that you've been resilient and been able to bounce back from something, then yes, you can also then pick perhaps hardship again to say, this is how I was interacting with communities other than, in contrast to myself. So some people have used examples again, but they're highlighting something different about who they are as a person. Again, use every opportunity to show more about you as a person. You're trying to be high def 5G in terms of standing out. Yeah.
Very good. And we are going to do the best we can to get through a couple more of these questions tonight. So one has to do with a letter of recommendation. They're asking, should they include something, a letter of recommendation from a physician after they had been shadowing them? Would that be a good opportunity?
This is a common question, so thanks for bringing it up. What is really clear with the committee is the shadowing experience is supposed to help you and clarify for you, you're wanting to be in this field. So we do tell students, hey, if that's an opportunity you can do, then that's great. What is not helpful is when a shadowing experience has only been an hour, 2 hours, 1 day, and that physician actually doesn't know who you are. It is actually wiser to go pick a letter of rec from someone who can tell us more attributes about yourself, more characteristics about yourself that probably weren't seen in that shadowing. And so you have to determine, did your shadowing experience help shape how you see this field and how you want to be in this field? Then write that as an example about your experience and how it shaped you. The second question you're asking is, did this shadowing experience help me connect with this particular doctor? And could this doctor write something about me in the time that we've been interacting together during the shadowing? If the answer is no, you should probably pick another recommender.
Good to know. Okay, a question that's a little bit different. Does this cohort of students, do they have an opportunity to live together on campus?
Actually, I guess I didn't list that. The offer for the housing assignment is to live on the living and learning community floor with the entire cohort. And we do require the cohort to live on campus for the first 2 years, and they do happen to be roommates with each other.
Very good. And is there a specific field of medicine that is looked at greater upon during their application process or interviews?
You're deciding what specialty you want to be, and that's going to be done throughout medical school as you do rotations and figure out what is the best fit for you. We are not looking at applications to say, this is the application for pediatricians. Oh, this is our pediatrician. This is our cardiologist. Oh, this is our neurologist. We are not picking applications based on your desire to be that type of doctor. We know students are going to change their mind. And so the commitment to the type of doctor you're going to be is not even going to happen until your 4th year of medical school. So no, we are choosing candidates based on the wholeness that they have shared in their application about who they are, such that the committee and the readers can picture these students as an individual through the program, going through the 8 years, as a team member of a cohort of 12, and as the future doctor for the San Joaquin Valley. We're not picking students because of designating a particular specialty.
Very good. I will ask 2 more questions and give each of you an opportunity for a last word. One of them is, do we know how many people we will be interviewing for this pathway or program?
That is not public information.
Very good. And the last question, will inputting the SJV Prime Plus BS to MD affect my chances of getting their alternative? So since this is a very competitive program and pathway, they want to make sure that they have a backup.
A backup to a UC or a back? This is a secondary app. So can you explain the backup more?
So that's
Yeah, what I was going to say, Noreen, is I'm unclear if you meant that you were worried about your UC Merced undergraduate application, and again, it's totally separate. So Noreen, can you go to the major selection slide again?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you select one of the Prime Plus options, it's true it's connected to an undergraduate major, because those are the majors that the Prime Plus pathway is looking at. So you've got one chemistry option, a couple biology options, bioengineering options. I said chemistry already, public health. I feel like I'm forgetting one, Noreen, but maybe not. Okay. So anyways, when you look at the application, there are specific majors tied to Prime Plus. But the first part of it is just the undergraduate major you're applying to. So in this example, you're applying to the biology major, in particular, the developmental biology emphasis, right? And you can apply to that major without Prime Plus. Let's say you're interested in pharmacy and you're not interested in medicine. You can apply to that program without Prime Plus and still get admitted to UC Merced. If you select that top option, you will not get the invitation to submit the supplemental app because you're not choosing to apply to Prime Plus. If you choose the bottom option, then you're applying to that major and emphasis at UC Merced for your undergraduate program, and the Prime Plus decision will not affect your UC Merced undergraduate decision. We've said that a few times now. So I don't know if that's what you meant, or as you can see, you can choose an alternate major on your app as well. And this is going to be my last words, Ricky, so I'll combine the two so you can skip me when we get to that. I do not recommend choosing a Prime Plus option as your alternate major. The alternate major will not get you invited to the program. And we don't look at alternate majors for Prime Plus. We rarely look at, I've been working for UC Merced since 2009, and I think I've admitted 2 students to their alternate major as a freshman applicant all those years. So UC Merced doesn't really use alternate major all that much. So choosing Prime Plus as your alternate major really isn't going to help at all. And if you choose one Prime Plus major and another Prime Plus as your alternate, it's also not going to help. So really, if you're interested in the Prime Plus major or pathway, then select it as one of the options as your primary major. Alternate major, you can apply to whatever you want to. Again, I would be surprised if we end up having to go to your alternate major.
I'm also going to answer the question in a different way. There's 2 applications and there's 2 offers being considered. So in March, there's a UC offer that says, hey, you've been admitted to UC Merced in developmental biology, let's say. That is given by UC Merced. The second offer being considered is SJV Prime Plus. That offer letter is not only signed by UC Merced, it is signed by the deans of the School of Medicine of San Francisco. So if you don't get into Prime Plus, it doesn't take away this other offer. Okay, so in your email inbox or in your portal, there's potentially 2 offers in front of you. You have to, sir, no matter what, on May 1st, you can actually decline the Prime Plus offer if you realize you just are really, committed to going to a different UC. And that's potentially what we do have a wait list. I forgot to say that in this presentation. So 2 offers are being considered because 2 applications are being submitted.
Fantastic. Both of you did such a wonderful job. This presentation was so packed full of information. And once again, we did record this tonight, so this will be available within a day or 2. And you will find all of those links in the chat box. I was just dropping as my colleagues were talking. So these are the things that were listed on that contact slide a while back. So it does have some of Noreen's information. It has the websites to the different programs that were listed on that contact slide, as well as the website for the events page. So that is where you will find the on-demand instant replay link in just a day or 2. We did have another program similar to this one just a couple of nights ago, so you can find that replay link there as well. We also have, as mentioned, many more events that are coming up as webinars here. So you can join us again. Ruben will be here. Noreen will be here for some of them with me as well as many others. So definitely make sure you go to that events page, get yourself signed up, or watch some of those older events. Thank you both so much for joining me on screen tonight. This is always so much fun. It is the best part of the job to get to meet all of you this way. And hopefully sometime very soon, we will see you on our beautiful campus. Best of luck to everyone. If you have any questions, please reach out and we will see you again very soon. Have a great night, everyone.
Have a good night.